Okay, well, good day, everybody. This is going to be the quick review before taking the test. Hopefully, you've looked at the study guide. A lot of this is going to come right off the study guide, and that should be helpful. So, without further ado, let's get rolling. All right. So it's a 60-point test. There's going to be 20 true and false, 40 multiple choice. I did not create this test to be overly tricky. I created it to look and see the knowledge that you have, what you remember from the readings, the important plot points, and then especially the multiple choice, they start looking a little more in depth at the text, and it really starts to get you to really look at more of an in-depth knowledge that you have. Okay, what can you infer in some of the points that are being made here? Okay, so the multiple choice will probably be a little bit more difficult in that you'll have to really think about some of those. Okay, true and false should be all right. I know this is right or wrong, but it shouldn't be overly difficult for you. I'm hoping everyone does extremely well, as I always do. Sixth period Monday, Tuesdays, fourth and fifth periods. Okay. You may use the X that you have annotated on the test. We'll do a review. This is what this is, and then you have 1 hour. It shouldn't take longer than an hour. It's not designed to be a test that's going to really drain you. Okay, it's designed just to see what you know, and I think it does a good job with that. Okay. Know the major plot points. And again, with Shakespeare and the 5-act plays, this is what he does. Act 1 is his exposition. He sets up the conflict. These conflicts, you have a lot of different conflicts with anything. It's going to be longer. You have an internal one, Macbeth trying to make a decision. What's the right thing to do? What's the wrong thing to do? You have conflict, person. You have the supernatural. Okay, why are you believing witches? And Banquo even said so. Should we believe things that are inherently evil? So the conflict setup, Macbeth right at the beginning is viewed as noble, valiant, brave, honorable. He is highly regarded. The witches then give the predictions. Then we have Macbeth is sort of tortured and internally, what should I do? You have Lady Macbeth and then her influence on trying to get him to do what she wants him to do. And then Macbeth's ambition eventually gets the best of him. And Lady Macbeth does help to spur him on. And as a character, she's a very strong character at the beginning. Act 2, you have your rising action. Part of the rising action is the killing of Duncan. You have your dagger soliloquy. It's a very famous one where Macbeth is, now he knows what he is going to do, and he is firm on it. Not overly convinced about it, but he's firm that he's going to do it. And then this idea of the human chain of being, chaos comes in here because all of a sudden something unnatural has happened. You've taken the life of a king. And remember, they used to believe that in the human chain of being, the king monarchy was at the top. Okay. And this has been disrupted in an unnatural way. So we have chaos. We have horses eating each other. We have things like it's night in the daytime. So this is all happening. Act 3, we get the climax, which starts with the killing of Banquo, and you have Banquo's ghost, which upsets Macbeth, and Lady Macbeth covers for him. She did not know about them going to kill Banquo, and then she does find out later. Hecate, we find out, is upset. She's upset with Macbeth and the witches, and orders the witches to give Macbeth that false sense of security. And this is where the climax is when things are, how things are going to end, and Hecate seals Macbeth's fate here. Act 4 is the falling action with the apparitions, the killing of Macduff's family. So make sure you look and go over those apparitions and Macduff and how he feels. Malcolm starts testing Macduff as to if he can trust him. And then Macduff's anger at the end of this, finding out that all of his family has been killed by Macbeth, who has become increasingly bloody and ruthless. The denouement, Macbeth is overconfident because of the false sense of security. You have Malcolm, Seward, and Macduff. They're closing in on Dunsinane. Macbeth's soldiers are leaving him all the time here. They do the camouflage of Malcolm's army comes in. Macbeth is angered over these prophecies, over this false sense of security. And as he realizes, oh my goodness, they were speaking in double sense. So there were a couple meanings to what they said, and he realized at the end that they have tricked him. At first, he doesn't want to fight Macduff. At first, he's like, first of all, he was like, I've done too much. to your family. Then when Macduff tells him, I wasn't born of a woman, he was born basically through a C-section. Macbeth's like, Macbeth starts seeing that mortality, doesn't really want to die, but eventually he's like, okay, I'm not going to be humiliated. I'm going to go out fighting. And he ends up getting killed by Macduff. Malcolm finishes the play. And as Shakespeare will do, is he'll have the person who is going to be in power or in control of most things, like Malcolm, who's going to be King of Scotland, end the play talking. And he does that in a lot of his plays. And so there's our denouement, which is a fancy word for resolution. So the characters, what they're like, if they change as a result, what happens, especially Macbeth and Lady Macbeth, and how they change. We get Macbeth, noble, valiant, and then he is at the end just despised. And even the people who still fight for him, they hate him, just not as much as others who leave, okay, as they're fighting. Lady Macbeth is an interesting character because she starts off very strong, resolute, and at the end there, apparently that was all a facade, that was all appearance, because at the end she is broken, so much so that she ends up killing herself. There at the end we find out, because she can't deal with all the blood on her hands and what they have done. So it's interesting. The characterization is with anything can be, it's Shakespeare. It doesn't mean Shakespeare is infallible. He's a great playwright. But the characterization of Lady Macbeth, sometimes, there's a couple instances where maybe we see her changing a little bit. Maybe we see that humanity when she can't kill King Duncan herself because it looks like her father. There's not a lot of it, so it's interesting how she has changed from this strong, bold woman to someone now who is broken. So that's always interesting to see. The witches, they create an atmosphere, set a mood for the reader as you're reading it. Whenever they're on, there's thunder, lightning, it's dark, it's foreboding. They have the predictions for Macbeth and Banquo, the apparitions. Those are throughout. The predictions always are hanging over. Then your apparitions come in, and then that's there in that false sense of security. And of course, we have Hecate, who is controlling everything in here. The great chain of being, we talked about that and how unnatural deeds lead to these unnatural ends. And a lot of interesting things happen because Duncan has been killed in an unnatural manner. Okay, he's been murdered. You have Shakespearean tragedy, the tragic flaw. So a character is going to have a flaw that does them in. You have the character's reputation being ruined. Usually that character is going to be one of a higher class, a noble, or a thane, as in Macbeth's case, and leads to their unfortunate demise. The motifs we talked about with blood and sleep, appearance versus reality. Remember, motifs occur over and over again. They keep coming up, and these do throughout the play, okay? We talked about soliloquy. Think of soliloquy, alone on stage. Aside, you're talking directly to the character, talking directly to the audience where the other characters can't hear. Remember, soliloquies and asides are good ways in which we get the innermost thoughts of characters. That's why playwrights use them. And you have dramatic irony, where we know something that another character might not know. Okay, metaphor, that comparison, out, brief candle, talking about life, how brief light is. That light of life is out. Okay. We all but poor players on a stage, that we're all acting a role, and in the end it's meaningless. When that famous out brief candle monologue that he has, the simile like or as is being used in that comparison. Allusion, that's a reference to whether something historical, a lot of times biblical or mythological, when they allude to Golgotha, where Christ was crucified. That battle that was fought there is going to be memorialized, they say, just like that place where Christ was crucified. So it shows the importance of that battle, that allusion does. The motif we discussed there, the three that you had an exercise on, and we talked about mood, how you feel as you're reading something, how they set or watching something. Watching it and you see all these witches and distortions and thunder and lightning, how does that make you feel? And then iambic pentameter, that rhythm that Shakespeare wants you to have. And we did that, the idea of Shakespeare has rhythm. Okay, so how does he create a rhythm? He tries to mimic that heartbeat. Da-dum, 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 unstressed, stress, unstressed, stress. Okay, so he has that I am the pentameter, that rhythm that he's creating. Okay, so you guys did a common assessment earlier. So whenever there's the extended response, just want to hammer that home. The extended response, okay, is restate, answer, cite, explain. So you restate something, you answer that question, then you cite something to support it, and then you explain it. Your explanation is key. Your explanation tells me what you're citing connects to the answer. So it needs to be complete and thorough. So that is a quick review. I hope it was quick. If you have questions, let me know. I will be happy to answer them. Again, the test, though, we want you to take it the day it is being assigned. So please try your best to do that. And if you have any questions, let me know. Have a great day and good luck. I think you guys will all do very